You know what really grinds my gears?
Or just the Russian state in general, is in cahoots with Gaijin saying, hey, our stuff must be able to do this, our stuff must be able to do this, or we will ban.
Oh, hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Hello guys, welcome back. Today we are going to be watching Dusty J's Russian agenda video, and hopefully I can tell you as to why this is some F-tier rage bait. I still can't believe this video has 60-something thousand views, and most of his community agrees with him. Alright, let's just get into it.
Another day, another War Thunder updates. I've been playing War Thunder for a lot of years now, and honestly, Russian bias has kind of been a meme amongst the War Thunder community for God knows how long, probably since the beginning, as far as I can remember. However, it's always kind of stayed as a meme. It's never really been the reality. However, with the introduction of modern vehicles and much more advanced weapon systems, as well as the Ukrainian conflict that began in early 2022, War Thunder has really been pushing a very obvious Russian agenda in its game, intentionally creating Russian vehicles to be significantly more effective than their NATO counterparts.
I want to stop you there. My experience, because I have managed to grind out a significant chunk of America. Well, I'm not quite at top tier just yet, but I have managed to play all the way up to top tier Germany, and I have played all the way up to top tier Russia. I'm now starting America because I got myself the Abrams while it was on sale. And so far, this is not the case. There are instances where Russia does win the game because it's either a landslide because someone got into a good position and ended up killing a bunch of people over and over again. But for the most part, I do better generally performance-wise in German tanks. So I'd have to check my statistics again, but I'm pretty sure that my 2A7 has a higher kill death ratio than my T90 or T80, but I could be wrong. But for the most part, Russia is honestly not the highest performing nation in the game as of right now. Russia is more or less second, because Germany obviously has the better tanks, but I wouldn't say that Russia necessarily has the most, strongest vehicles. They're good for brawling, but they're not very good in a sense that they can't, be flexible like their NATO counterparts. And also the gun depression is pretty bad. What I would say, though, is that Russian aircraft are more of the issue. So the SC-30s, the SC-27s, and basically anything that can carry a KH-38MT, that is probably the more oppressive than the Russians. So their tanks can be easily killed, but their aircraft, it's just top tier. Everything's got fire and forget missiles, and it's just annoying to fight. So I wouldn't say that the Russian tanks are necessarily the issue. I'd say it's more or less the planes that have been given to other nations with the weaponry that they have, not the tanks.
Anyone that watched my last video regarding the propaganda of this game, take everything I said and dial it up to 11, because nothing's really changed, and if anything, it's gotten even worse. Now, anyone that knows my thesis statement on this whole thing, it's very simple. Russia is not unbeatable in this game. As a matter of fact, it's the contrary. Russia in this game must always be able to counter whatever new addition is added to this game, and it will never fail that that's the case.
Have you never heard of an arms race?
I am convinced that the Russian state media, or just the Russian state in general, is in cahoots with Gaijin saying, hey, our stuff must be able to do this, our stuff must be able to do this, or we will ban your game in our country. I am convinced that that is the case, because no matter what happens, no matter what is added for what faction where or who, it doesn't matter that Russia will always be able to counter it with some new addition.
I don't understand the point of this argument. Gaijin literally moved out of Russia, I think it was to Belarus? Or Cyprus, I don't know. But they moved out, and I don't know why the Russian Federation would obsess themselves over being portrayed a certain way in a tank game. Why would the feds care about that?
And let's just run an example real quick. The AH-64E has been added to the American tech tree as the new top-tier helicopter for America. Now, I'm not going to talk about the underpowered fire and forget missiles just yet. I will bring it up, but at the moment, I really want to focus on the LDIRCM properties of this helicopter. And at first glance, a lot of the Eastern mains may be like, well, no, look, now America has LDIRCM, so you can't really complain. Yeah, except the fact that a 10-3 SPAA on the Russian tree is specifically designed to counter it.
Here's what you can do to counter that.
Strela 10M is a 10-3 AA, and its missile, which is optical tracking with IR signature, is easily able to bypass the AH-64E's LDIRCM from any distance. It completely ignores it. However, take it on the flip side, the Mi-28NM also has LDIRCM, and that is the top tier featured helicopter for Russia. However, America's 12-0 SPAA, which features the AIM-9X Block 2, is easily fooled by the Mi-28NM's LDIRCM.
Do you have any evidence to support this?
Even though the Strela has only optical guiding and IR guidance, it is able to bypass the American LDIRCM, but the Russian Mi-28NM can fool the GNSS/GPS, the IOG, IR, and data link guidance of an AIM-9X Block 2. A 12-0 AA cannot beat what a Strela 10M can do.
Oh yeah, unless there's a mountain in the way. Then of course it can't do anything.
And speaking of Mi-28NM and AH-64E, I would just like to point out the elephant in the room of the new fire and forget missiles. And this comes back to whole Gaijin saying one thing and doing the other. There was a very long time in which people were asking for Russia and America and even China, which I'll touch on later, to get fire and forget missiles for its helicopters. Gaijin's rebuttal to that was, hey, we're only giving spikes and PARs to the European nations because those missiles are weaker, they do less damage, and it's not as bad to get hit by those versus a Lemur or an AGM-114L. Fair. That's a fair point to make. Except, with the addition of the update, they have finally added Lemurs, and then for some reason gave America AGM-179s? Which are just spikes and PARs? So, they're weak, and they're just like, I mean, I'm just confused here. Why couldn't the AGM-179 be added months ago?
I don't want to be a grammar shark, but you're missing one very important thing. And that's the warhead difference. Yikes. Also, this guy clearly has never touched a PARS in his life. Because the AGM-179 is lethal against tanks, even though it's heat. It is lethal. Alright, the Lemur is just as deadly because it's, SAP HE and it's hitting your roof, but the Lemur is just as lethal. The PARS, on the other hand, because PARS have not been touched in forever, they are basically useless. The guidance system is terrible. They, for some reason, switched targets, because one time I was playing with my friend, and I ended up killing a friendly Leopard 2K because he had drove too close to the original target and the missile swapped target. I really don't know where you're going with this. I really don't know where you're going with this.
Where's the AGM-114L? Why are we getting spike-level missiles? Which could have been added to the game months ago. And yet, Gaijin decides to add him with this update, claiming that just because you get double the amount as you do a Lemur, they are the same value. Which, anyone that knows anything about rockets and missiles damage in this game knows that that's a complete farce. This game will try to convince you that Russian tanks can tank a Maverick missile and be okay, or tank a Hellfire missile and be okay, whereas Russia can have broken KH-38 MTs for years that one-shot everything from the next game away, and everyone's kind of just okay with it while they also have the best SPAA in the game.
While I will agree with you on the KH-38MT, because one time I did see a video on the KH-38MT, is that the Fire and Forget MT that we have in-game right now was a proposal. It wasn't even a fully built version, it was literally just a mock-up. So, my sources in my brain tell me. The only missile that Russian aircraft should have is the laser-guided 38. I think it was the M or T, or L. One of the two, or three. Spikes have been implemented into the game, and they're on several ground vehicles, and they're not great, to be honest. I will give them that. They've also been introduced to the Israeli Black Hawk, I think. I think the Israeli MH-60 gets a spike rack.
And I'm talking about the Pantsir at the time, and now the Buk M3. I mean, and this really where the bias starts to rear its ugly head, because even if you are a video game developer balancing weapons and items amongst teams, why on earth would you artificially nerf the team's missiles that are slower than the team's missiles that are faster? Why does the slower missile do less damage than the faster missile?
Again, do I really need to tell you what you're missing? Also, the book is not as nearly as good as the Pantsir anymore. It was probably never good to begin with.
That tracks further away. It actually makes no sense from a pure balance perspective, because as we stated earlier, Mavericks, there's no such thing as a hit marker with a Maverick in real life. Anything that gets hit by a Maverick dies, and it should be no different in this game. Gaijin continues to throw smoke, dance around topics, and cherry pick information that shows that American technology is just inferior to Russian technology in every way. Take a look at the Buk M3 and the Slam Ram for an example. Multipathing is not a thing in real life with modern missiles. AMRAAM C5 and C7 both should be able to ignore multipathing on all levels. The Buk M3 is also able to be fooled with multipathing. However, the biggest difference is the Buk M3 is intentionally designed to where when it is multipath, it has a large enough prox radius and large enough detonation radius that it doesn't even matter. You will lose a wing, you'll lose a rudder if it explodes near you. Why is the AMRAAM C7 artificially nerfed to have multipathing? And it is clearly affected by this drastically that any aircraft flying low enough can just dodge a C7, whereas a Buk M3 that suffers from the same exact mechanic can just ignore it by having a large enough explosion.
I mean, if you're comparing explosion radius, it's like comparing a telephone pole to a literal cruise missile. Like, the Buk is literally a cruise missile in terms of size, so of course it has a giant explosion radius.
I'm not even a game dev, and it doesn't take more than half a brain to see the balance issue there. If one nation has a large enough explosive in it to destroy the aircraft regardless of multipathing, then just make the weaker one not have multipathing. There it is. I don't get it. It doesn't make, there's no explanation for it other than a political agenda that your company is pushing to make one nation's technologies to look weaker than the other nations.
Dude, I'm watching the stream while you try not to laugh, bro. That's disrespectful.
Take a look at how stealth is completely neutered in this game and made to be a facade that is easily detectable by top-tier SBAA. But for some reason, Russia can come out with LDIRCM, which apparently can just block A9X Block 2, block IRST. I mean, hell, the LDIRCM craps on stealth every single time because it's on a Russian helicopter.
We have these things called eyeballs. Everyone has them.
And I understand back now, oh, the AH-64E now has it, so who cares? Okay, but that goes right back to my Strela argument and how Russia is able to counter everything at all times. It doesn't matter what America has, because Russia is always going to be able to counter it with something.
The more and more this goes on, the more and more it sounds like skill issue after skill issue after skill issue. It's actually insane.
That is the rule of thumb with Gaijin. Other nations can have cool stuff like a stealth Comanche, a stealth bomber, whatever, tactical bomber, LDIRCM with fire and forget missiles. It doesn't matter because Russia is always going to be able to counter it no matter what, because Russia in this game must always have technological superiority over other nations. Even if it's not true and artificially has to be done with the neutering of other nations' ordnance and equipment. And the bias extends a lot further than just the helicopters and the aircraft. It goes all the way down to the tanks, 2S-25M, 2S-38, dodging BR changes for years, the 2S-25M not having an autoloader model, just a lot of small convenient things for Russian tanks that are not a thing on NATO tanks.
What did the 2S-25M do to you? I mean, if we're going to talk about how the 2S-25M needs to go up, what about the Striker? Let's put that up to 11.0. See what happens. The 2S-38 I can understand, but that went up to 10.7 from 9.7 originally. So I think it's in a much better spot. But on the topic of the 2S-38, the vehicle is absolutely mid. It is absolutely mid. I'm not kidding you. It is absolutely mid.
I mean, look at this most recent nerf. As of September 24th, 2025, NATO tanks now pretty much don't have blowout panels.
This is not true. You want to know how you can solve that? It's called stop taking so many heat rounds. There you go. Problem solved.
So while an autoloader in a T90 can eat a DM53 round and shoot back at you once and kill you, your blowout panels are no longer going to operate as they did before. So Gaijin can stay on top of nerfing American tanks and nerfing German tanks and nerfing all these NATO country tanks while they conveniently forget that their 10.0 super tank destroyer is missing its autoloader.
It's literally made of wet cardboard. You can 50 cal the thing. It doesn't even survive a single hit anyway.
And has dodged BR changes for years now, as well as a 2S-38 not having an autoloader modeled, Object 292 not having an autoloader modeled. All these convenient missing things on Russian vehicles to be destroyed, while an American vehicle can have a completely fabricated horizontal turret drive attached to its ring because it just fits the narrative of Russian tanks being stronger than American tanks. Even something newer like the BM alot, which has been added to the Japanese tech tree. Ironically, they're not giving it to Ukraine because they said they didn't have a lot of them or something. I don't think that's the case. I think that's just a blatant lie. There are tanks in this game that don't even exist.
Where is it? Huh. Let's see. There you are. Look at that.
So I'm just really confused the reasoning why they couldn't give the alot to another nation. And on top of that, the alot is supposed to be the epitome of T80 evolution. However, it is weaker than in every way to the T80 BVM. And it's kind of funny because the BM alot is just called a BM alot in the game. Even when you hover over it and it gives you the full name of the vehicle, it only says BM alot. And the tinfoil hat side of me is telling me that they just are
This is just stupid.
not allowed to call it a T-84. That the Russian state is telling them, like, you're not allowed to call it a T-84. You're not allowed to put it in the Ukrainian faction. It's the bias is so blatant that I actually believe those things.
And you've continued to feed yourself your own lies by confirmation bias. Congratulations.
That's how bad it is, that I am willing to believe the conspiracy theories because everything else is so apparent. And I truly believe that the people that don't think that Russian bias is a thing in this game are completely deluded. You are lost in the sauce and obviously think that War Thunder's reality when it's just a video game. Don't forget that. It's a video game.
Oh, but don't worry, the Russians are in cahoots with Gaijin. But don't worry, guys, it's just a video game. You see how stupid you sound?
And nothing in this game is realistic or attributed to real life. The bias is so blatant that I actually believe those things.
Yeah, I've just straight up had enough of this. The War Thunder brainwashing and the confirmation bias of, I don't know, the extreme circle or whatnot is actually insane. I feel the genuine isotopes and blood cells and the IQ points of my brain who are already in the negatives go further into the negatives. Ugh. Oh, it hurts to think, doesn't it? It hurts to think. You know? It hurts to use a little bit of sense and stop being so unbelievably gullible. Oh, man, it hurts. Oh, whatever. That's probably enough of that for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you feel like, I don't know, supporting the channel, go ahead and do that. Just make sure you can free think for yourself. I don't see any Russian bias in this game. There's no pandering towards Russian players, you know, apart from the BMPT changes, but honestly, I can still take down a BMPT very easily, so I've got no issues there. Just remember, guys, please do not send any hate towards this guy. He doesn't deserve it. Be kind to one another, please. Okay, have a good one.